Hey, comic lovers, EMoney and the old man back with you again. And hey, look who's back. Look who's back. Thor the Dog of Thunder is back.
Watch. He's learning to take a treat without taking part of my finger with it. Good boy.
Oh, who's a good boy? Did you miss us? Did you miss Uncle and Grandpa?
He missed sitting in that throne getting a lot of free treats.
Yeah.
That's what he missed.
All right, comic lovers. So today we are talking about, we're counting down our top 10 best comic book movies of all time and the worst comic book movies of all time.
And just to warn you, I put together a list of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. We're going to have to narrow that list down before we can even work with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of great comic book movies out there, but there's also a lot of bad comic book movies out there.
And there's a lot of movies I didn't even know were comic book movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so glad to have Thor the Dog of Thunder back with us. He's not paying any attention to me. He just sees Grandpa with the treats.
Yep, he sees the treat.
Yep. All right, so stay tuned, kids, and make sure you got your popcorn ready. This is Back Issues. All right, so before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications, give us a like, and leave us a comment. We always love to hear from you guys. All right, so best and worst comic book movies of all time. Now, if you don't hear your best or worst movies, we had to make some hard decisions here.
Yeah, I mean, it was not easy coming up with just 10 of each type.
For either list, yeah.
So we started off, we pulled a list of every movie was based on a comic book character. Now, first thing, we eliminated all the animated films.
I mean, we can make a whole other list on animated films, so we had to make the cut there.
And movies that went straight to TV, like the old Captain America, the old Spider-Man, the Bill Bixby Hulk movies, we didn't include any of those.
Right.
Just to narrow the list down. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of movies on there that I didn't know were comic book movies. Like we just watched a movie yesterday called Polar.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know it was a comic book movie. Pretty good movie.
Yeah,
Highly
worth a
recommend
watch,
it.
yeah.
But there's a ton of movies on there, and a lot that between the two of us, we haven't seen them all. We need to work on that.
Okay.
But
all right. So you want to kick this off?
why not?
All right, we're gonna do the worst top 10 worst comic book movies just to start off here. So I go with number 10.
Mm-hmm.
That is Green Lantern. A lot of stuff to say about this film. I don't think Ryan Reynolds, I think he said he didn't know that he wasn't going to get an actual suit until they started filming. It's like, you're going to put me in a CGI tracking suit? I don't get a green suit? Okay. And
There was a lot of things wrong. I mean, I love the first superhero movie to be a long discovery phase. Look at the movie Shazam. Whole section of the movie where he discovers what he can do. Now, in the Green Lantern, it's just like, hey, I've got a ring, I can do anything.
mm-hmm.
And he figures it out immediately. No discovery phase.
And he almost immediately gets sent to Oa, where he, finds out the Green Lantern Corps and what is it he's supposed to do. It's like, I think that would kind of rattle you just a little bit, but he just kind of takes it in stride for the most part.
And instead of taking on some bank robbers, foiling a kidnapping, he takes on a godlike being that is Green Lantern's craziest, most powerful villain.
I mean, after Parallax taking on Sinestro should have been a cinch, right?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do if there had been a second movie?
Right?
Mm-hmm. That's just crap.
Also, like when he takes on Parallax at the end, what does he do? He just has to recite the Green Lantern Oath, and that's enough to send Parallax into the sun? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Love me some Westerns. Didn't love me some Jonah Hex. I mean, there's a lot of Jonah Hex stories out there. My favorite is one called Two Gun Mojo. I think it was a 5-issue miniseries. It's a Western zombie movie. Two of my favorite genres merged into one. I would love to have seen that. But that's not what we got.
No. Instead, you got Megan Fox with her perfect teeth playing a whore in the Old West. And you're basically trying to remake the Wild Wild West. Why would you do that for whatever reason?
That was terrible.
Mm-hmm. So that brings me to my number 8, Spawn. Now, I've talked about this on the show before, where when it first came out, Dad went to go see the movie, and I wanted to go with him. I didn't know anything about the movie, hardly, but it was a comic book movie. I wanted to go see it with him. And he says to me, okay, explain the plot to your mother, and if she says you can go after that, you can go. I did not go to the movies that day.
He did not.
But later on, like years later, I saw it, and I realized that this film would have been a whole lot better if it had been made even 5, maybe 10 years later. Because the CGI at that time was not where it needed to be to do all those scenes they did in the film.
I always flash back to that whole wall of all the different spawn demons.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's just
Terrible.
awful.
Terrible.
And Violator in his true form, just yeah.
And he was the best part of the movie.
Yeah. All right, so number
Next.
7.
You can actually lump the first Ghost Rider and this movie, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, all together. I mean, at least the first one, there was a little bit of discovery.
I mean, I liked the first one a hell of a lot better than I did the second.
Well, the main problem with Ghost Rider is you cannot make a movie about a demon who is the spirit of vengeance and rated PG-13. That movie has to be rated R, and it has to deserve the R rating.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
I mean,
And, you know, everything, it's been a few years, but him, like, I think he turned a construction crane into his vehicle for the Ghost Rider. Like the whole thing was just over the top and ridiculous. So that brings me to my number 6, the Hulk movie. And this is the 2003 version with Eric Bana. And same problem with Spawn was the CGI wasn't where it needed to be for this film because, I mean, Hulk, first of all, he looked bloated the entire film. And you have to wait 45 minutes before you even see him.
well, yeah, those are objectionable things, but my problem was in the story. Where did this whole bit about Banner's dad come from? I've read a lot of comic books over the years. I don't remember them ever mentioning his dad. Maybe they did, but it sure wasn't as important as this story was. And then the Absorbing Man. This is another case, like the Sandman in Spider-Man 3, where you take a villain, a good solid villain, and you make him too powerful. The Absorbing Man should be able to touch a lamp pole and turn his whole body to metal. He shouldn't be able to absorb the earth to become a godlike being. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The whole thing was garbage.
All right, so that takes you to number 5.
All right, number 5. Shaquille O'Neal as Steel.
John Henry Irons. Now, does Shaquille O'Neal look like John Henry Irons? Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Does he have the acting chops to pull off a character like this? Back then in the 90s, still, like when he had hardly acted at all. No.
Well, I've seen Shaquille O'Neal quite a bit after he retired from basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of Paul White, the Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
In the right part, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
They both have great senses of humor. I've seen the Big Show on Saturday Night Live when The Rock was the host.
Mm-hmm.
He is so funny. He's great. His sitcom is pretty good. You should check it out. Shaquille O'Neal fits that same category. He can do some things very, very well. And for what I've seen, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
That wasn't his part.
No. I mean, and also the suit just looks so ridiculous. I mean, you see what Steel looks like in the comic books, and then you see what they came up with for Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, almost his entire face is exposed, and people are shooting at him, and he just kind of stands there. If your entire body is armored except for your face, aren't you going to be doing this?
Well, look at RoboCop, constantly covering his face.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the Winter Soldier with his robotic arm. I mean, somebody starts shooting at him, he's protecting his main parts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so enough about Steel. So that brings me to number 4. Fantastic Four, the 2015 version. And I barely consider this a legitimate film because all it was an attempt by Fox to hold on to the Fantastic Four property and not have to sell it back to Marvel. Because they had mostly failed with the Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. That didn't make them anyway. I think they broke even with that. So they hadn't made an FF film for a long time, and they were about to lose the property. So they say, "Hey, let's make another Fantastic Four film, so we don't have to give it back." And we came up with this.
What's that expression? Bite off your nose to spite your face?
Something like that. You know what the metaphor I came up with was, it was like borrowing Marvel's gun, accidentally shooting yourself in the foot, and then not wanting to return the gun because you plan on shooting yourself in the other foot a while later.
Well, all I gotta say is the writers did not get the concept of the Fantastic Four. They just didn't understand what that team is all about.
And also, you had to wait until the very end to get anything even resembling a decent fight scene. It's just no across the board. All right, so I could go all day about that one.
Yeah.
Number 3.
And this one we've had lots of discussions about too. Man of Steel.
Now, why would we dislike this film so much over others?
Well, I get angry talking about this movie, so I'm just going to bring up one point, which is the biggest point to me in this movie. In no version of the Superman story would Clark Kent ever stand aside and let his father, Jonathan Kent, die instead of revealing that he has powers. You know, in the comics, he would have come up with a way to do both, to cover up that he's Superman and to save his father. There's a thing called super speed. Superman has, in the past, moved so fast that he went back in time. You're telling me he couldn't run over there, grab Jonathan, run back without anybody even being able to see what happened? Or 1,000 other ways he could have saved him. Why did the writers think it was appropriate for him to just stand there and watch his father die? Not a chance.
Even after Jonathan told him not to.
Yeah,
You're
not
telling
a
me he
chance.
just would have stood there.
No.
Another point earlier in the film. Okay, you take the Superman Christopher Reeve first movie, where Clark is frustrated about using his abilities and everything that he can do. His father looks at him and says, "You are here for a reason." Then you go to Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, and Clark has just rescued all those kids off the bus that were falling into the lake, and someone saw him doing it, and so then later he is scolding him for revealing his abilities, and Clark says, "What was I supposed to do? Just let all those kids die?" And Jonathan Kent says, "Maybe." That one line, that one word just makes my blood boil every time I see it. Jonathan Kent would never tell Clark to let a bunch of kids die. Never.
No chance.
So Jonathan Kent was just a complete miswrite in that film. Also, if you want to mention how towards the end of the film, where Superman is fighting the other Kryptonians all throughout Metropolis and, killing hundreds, possibly thousands of people in the city. I mean, in Superman 2, as soon as Superman saw that his fighting was endangering civilians, what did he do?
Got it out of there.
He led them away. This film, they cause all kinds of destruction and destroy skyscrapers throughout the city, and thousands of people die, and they explore that in Batman vs. Superman later on. I mean, it's like, why didn't you move this fight out of town?
Or at least try.
Yeah. So there's Man of Steel. All right, number 2, The Spirit. Oh boy. Now, it's been a few years since I've seen this film, so I'm a little hazy on all the details.
You mean you don't want to watch it again?
I don't want to watch it again, no. But I remember thinking when I watched this, like, how did they get Samuel L. Jackson and Scarlett Johansson to sign on for this?
I've said Samuel L. Jackson is in every movie ever made. Maybe you don't see him. But this one, you probably should have passed on.
Yeah. I mean, at least Samuel L. got to be, like, over-the-top villain in this film. And Scarlett Johansson's talents were totally wasted in it. I mean, I don't even think she even got a good send-off. I think her final scene was she's talking to the girl hero. I don't remember her name, and she just kind of walks off. I mean, she knew that Samuel L's character, the octopus, was probably going to be defeated, so she just kind of bows out. I'm out of here. I'll collect my check and be on my way.
Well, you don't have a lot of exposure to the Will Eisner comics. I've read quite a few of them. It was camp, no doubt, but it was good camp. This was bad camp.
It was very bad camp.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad camp, number 1.
I almost hate to say it, but my good buddy Batman and Robin.
You know, leading up to this film, when Joel Schumacher took over the franchise, and they were talking about Batman 3, and they were trying to negotiate with Michael Keaton to do a third film. At some point during the meeting, I heard about this through interviews, I think. At some point, Joel Schumacher says, "Why does everything have to be so dark?"
Ooh.
Because it's Batman!
Yeah. I've always had a problem with Batman coming out into the light and accepting the key to the city at some public ceremony. It takes me back to the old Adam West Batman TV show, which I didn't like either. Batman should be a mysterious character that most people don't even believe is real. He shouldn't be on TV.
Yeah. And the bat nipples and the ice puns. Oh my God, the ice puns. Could not stand it. And you had Poison Ivy over the top, and that horrible version of Bane where he just becomes just a mindless drone going
Since
bomb.
when is Bane a henchman?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think there are some versions where he's a hired gun, but he's like the top hired gun. And Batgirl is Alfred's niece. Like, when did that happen? And the whole thing was just a big cluster.
Yeah.
So there's our number 1, and so top 10 worst comic book movies according to us. So let's take it to our best comic book movies, and I'll be
much more pleasant discussion.
I'll be a lot less angry now.
All right.
All right. So number 10. I fudged a little bit on this one, and I counted Spider-Man 1 and 2 as the same number 10 ranking. And I had to give it to this one because, I mean, this is kind of like at the dawn of the superhero age. It was Spider-Man, X-Men, and I guess to a lesser degree Blade that really kicked off the superhero movie age that we're currently enjoying. Iron Man was another milestone, 2008, kicking off the MCU. Right. But this is kind of where it started. And Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi, give us a great Spider-Man adaptation, and it's just what started everything.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we gave this a nod, and instead of the Tom Holland movies.
Right.
I enjoy the Tom Holland movies probably more than those two movies, but those two movies created Spider-Man. I mean, without those two movies, we wouldn't have a Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Right. And because of Tobey Maguire, you didn't have to go through the origin phase with Tom Holland again. Yeah. I mean, we had already seen it twice in the last 15 years, so we got to get to the good stuff with Tom Holland.
Right.
All right, so there's number 10.
All right, number 9, Logan. It's possible that this was a farewell for Hugh Jackman to kiss Wolverine goodbye. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just like certain guys are always going to be my favorite guy. Well, Hugh Jackman's always going to be my Wolverine. Yeah. He's a little too tall for the part, but he's Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, to see him with Patrick Stewart once again, just the storyline was well done. The fight scenes were good. They introduced some new characters, which I thought were extremely well cast and well performed. Mm-hmm. It's just an all-around great movie. Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing about the audition that the girl who played X-23 had, and I forget what her name is, but she asked the director when she was auditioning, "Can I speak Spanish for this?" So he's like, "Yeah." So that whole scene where she's trying to explain to Logan where she needs to do and where she needs to go, and her like screaming at him in Spanish, and he doesn't understand what the hell she's saying. That's what got her the part. So that was a big role for her, and I think she's currently in the Golden Compass remake on HBO. So great for her. And the other two Wolverine movies before this, they had been lukewarm, but I mean, you didn't know what you were getting into when they were doing the Farewell Logan movie. But then you see that first trailer with Johnny Cash, and you're like, okay, I'm on board for this.
Well, and he's not dead. It's Wolverine.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be dead.
And also, the whole time travel thing, so.
I'm going to go with he's not dead.
All right. So, number 8, movie I mentioned earlier, Superman 2. And this was in an age where superhero movies were practically non-existent. I mean, there was no real Batman movies other than the Adam West Batman movie, and there was hardly any Marvel stuff out there.
Nothing good.
No. So Superman was kind of like a shining beacon in movies at that time. The first Superman movie and then the second Superman movie especially. And the reason I rank this over the first one is I always appreciate a superhero movie where the hero has somebody to fight. Where the first one, he was just facing off against Lex Luthor, and it was just a matter of outsmarting him. And also the time travel thing. We...
Not a fan of that.
Yeah, neither of us have ever really appreciated the time travel thing. Because if you can go back and fix anything that easily, then, just do it every time.
Yeah. Now, just like I said about Hugh Jackman being Wolverine, Chris Reeve is always going to be my Superman. I mean, some of the other guys might look the part. They have more modern-looking costumes. But he put on a cloth Superman costume and sold it.
Mm-hmm.
He was perfect.
Yep. So, Superman 2, and also because he took the fight out of the city, outsmarted Zod as well as outfought him. That's what sold it for me over any other Superman movie. All right, so number 7.
All right. A lot of you may not realize this is actually a movie based on a comic book, and that's Frank Miller's 300. Frank Miller got obsessed with the story of the 300 when he was a kid, and he saw an older movie. And he finally got the chance to work with some people to create this movie. The way they did the filming has a great look, just like his Sin City movie. It's got a different look to it. But in my opinion, it is the best example of squad-level combat in any movie. When you've got small numbers, 20 or less in a fight scene, it's fantastic. Now, there's other movies out there that have got big armies fighting each other that are probably better, like the Lord of the Rings scenes. But when it comes to squad level, this is your movie. Okay. This is one of those movies that if it's ever on TV, I'm not going to change the channel until it gets to commercial. I'm going to watch at least a segment of this movie.
All right, so that brings me to number 6, The Dark Knight. Now, I mean, the whole trilogy, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, is pretty perfect. Now, 2 of us have talked about this movie and how we say that Heath Ledger's Joker wasn't really our Joker.
No.
But that doesn't mean that it wasn't a great villain for Batman to fight.
He's a horrendously evil villain, whether he's the Joker or not.
Mm-hmm. And it was a great sequel to the first film, and we're already past the discovery phase, and we see Batman has kind of cemented his legacy in Gotham and facing off against this new foe. And a lot of the mythos of Batman is created in this film.
Yeah, good stuff. I can't say that I'm ever going to consider him a Joker, but it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm. All right, so number 5.
Number 5 is Black Panther. I go back to when Black Panther first showed up, I think in Fantastic Four, something or another, and he had a cape, and wasn't a really solid character, but over the years he developed. And this movie took it beyond anything in the comic books. This is the rare time when the movie, the story in the movie, the acting in the movie was better than anything I've read in a comic book. This was a just all-around fantastic movie, great battle scenes, just top-notch. I mean, for them to take the story of Wakanda and move it this far and make that movie about it, I don't know what you could expect of a movie.
All right, so number 4 brings me to Wonder Woman. Now, a lot of people, going back to an earlier film, a lot of people would put Batman versus Superman on their worst list for various reasons. Here's the reason I can never do that, and that is the debut scene of Wonder Woman. You know, that whole, battle against Doomsday, and, he's about to blast Batman, and Wonder Woman drops out of the sky. You don't get a good look at her, and then bracers come up, and then once the dust settles, the Wonder Woman theme starts up. I remember seeing that in theater, and when Wonder Woman showed up, there was this one woman in the theater who just started screaming like, yes, yes, yes! And it was just an iconic moment. So that is why I can never consider Batman versus Superman a bad movie. So that brings me to Wonder Woman. And we see the discovery phase of Wonder Woman, where we see her on Themyscira and meeting Steve Trevor, and the No Man's Land scene. That scene alone is just iconic cinema.
She jumps out of the trench and goes charging the Germans.
Whew. Yeah.
Shivers. Whew.
Now, the only disappointment came at the end. I mean, it did not have a strong ending because the battle against Ares was a little lackluster. And also, this is the problem I had with it, was throughout the film, Diana is convinced that Ares is responsible for the Great War. And he's been, whispering in, men's ears and starting these conflicts. And everyone who hears her explanation throughout the film, kind of gives her this, pitiful, sympathetic look, like, oh, Diana. Like, she's going to learn a hard lesson by the end of the movie that sometimes it's not some evil entity whispering in men's ear. Maybe, sometimes people are just jerks and things happen. But then, by the end of the film, you find out that's exactly what it was. And that Ares was responsible for everything the whole time. And it's like, okay, so after she kills him, like, what's going to happen in 20 years when World War II starts? Like, he just comes back from the dead?
Well, I mean, he is a god, so.
True. But, yeah, so that was my big issue with Wonder Woman. But still, a great, solid film. So, we're on to number 3.
Yep. Now, I love me some Captain America. And any of the Captain America movies could be on this list, but we decided just to pick one of them. So I went with Captain America Civil War. Great scenes with Cap, but they introduced the wall crawler to the MCU for the first time. Now, I went into this movie, they'd already showed you Spider-Man in the trailers.
Yeah, I have told people that I need to be in charge of movie trailers.
I'd put you in charge.
Yes. I need to be in charge, especially with superhero movies. And this is why. Captain America Civil War, my prime example. Going into the film, you may have heard rumors. You may have heard press releases. But you would not have actually seen Spider-Man in the MCU until you were sitting in the theater watching the film, if I were in charge.
Well, it might have been a good thing that I didn't know that was going to happen, because if I didn't, when Tony Stark yells under ruse and Spider-Man swings in, I might have passed out. I mean, I might have just dropped, because that was absolutely incredible to finally see this character who is Marvel to show up in a Marvel movie. Man, that was just such an incredible thing. And the way they write Spider-Man, he is perfect in that movie. Absolutely perfect. And let's face it, Captain America is just another Avengers movie. To have all those characters in there And for them to develop the story the way they did, good stuff.
Yeah. And they did in 15 minutes with Spider-Man what two Amazing Spider-Man films couldn't do. All right, so number 2, that's me. Okay, so number 2 is The Avengers, the 2012 movie. And the importance, the significance of this film cannot be understated, because this was a 4-year plan, probably 5 or 6 years.
Longer than that.
Yeah, because I remember hearing they were going to do Iron Man when I was still in college, and I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. But I saw it. And this was a plan that was years in the making to bring these heroes together. It was the first time anything like this had been done to this level of ambition, and bringing all these heroes together. And I didn't think they were going to do it, because I remember watching The Incredible Hulk and that final scene where Tony Stark walks into the bar. I was like, oh, okay. They're going to do this. All right, I'm on board.
Well, in my opinion, the main strength of Marvel Comics over the years has been their willingness, their desire, and their ability to cross any character over into one of their comics. I mean, when you open a Marvel comic, you never know who's going to show up. It might be in the second page, it might not be to the last panel, but anybody could show up. I'm not talking Marvel Team Up and Marvel 2-in-1 where the whole story is a team up. I'm talking just guest appearances. It could happen. And I remember coming out of this movie, and by the way, I ended up giving this movie 4 stars. Now, that's on a scale of 4 possible stars. I don't give many 4-star ratings to movies.
You don't give me 3.5-star ratings out.
No, not many at all. But 4 stars, less than 1 a year. I've looked back over the years that I've been rating movies just to make sure of that. I probably average 1 4-star movies every year and a half.
And if you look at our history of rating movies, I usually probably give about a 1/2 star more to a movie than you do.
He's more generous.
On average.
But I came out of that movie thinking 4 stars, and I had a mental image of the writers sitting around a room talking about the movie, scripting it, going, let's make this movie for Irvin. Let's make one for the old man. He'll appreciate the effort on this one. And boy, did I.
Yeah. All right, so Avengers 2012, which brings us to number 1.
Number 1. You want to do the thing special?
One.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right. Avengers Endgame. For me, it was a no-brainer. We made these lists up separate and then compared them to come up, narrow them down to just 10. We both had Avengers Endgame as number 1.
I had a night to myself a few months ago, and, house was empty. I could do anything. I could watch anything. I ordered a pizza, and I popped in Avengers Endgame. I didn't even really think about it.
I mean, there's a scene in this movie, and everybody, if you know how much I love certain characters, you know that there's a scene in this movie that is just special to me. And they led up to it. They did a lot of foreshadowing. But when Cap picked up that hammer and used it, shivers. Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure I yelled out something in the movie theater, probably just a big loud yes. But that movie had everything that you could want in the movie. You brought back Wakanda and the power of those people. You had team-ups, just appearances, just about everybody.
And, it wasn't just a big iconic battle at the end. I mean, there were a lot of things throughout the film, like, the whole time heist thing and the throwback to the 2012 Avengers that was really great. And there was one scene towards the beginning of the film that really got to me, when they have just rescued Tony and Nebula off the ship. And, Tony is getting medical attention, and Nebula sits down next to Rocket after everything that's happened. And, Rocket kind of gives her kind of like a, pat on the hand, and Nebula takes it a step further and, puts her hand in his. And, if you know Nebula's character, she's not an emotional person.
No.
But, that scene there just got me right in the feels.
Yeah, there was a lot that got me in the feels to this movie. I mean, the death of Vision, And if we're spoiling anything for anybody, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't seen these movies by now, shame on you. It's your fault.
Yeah.
But at any rate, there's nothing that movie could have given me except Doctor Strange and Wong.
Oh yeah, the scene where he's like, "Is that everyone?" And he's like, "What? You want it more?" I'm like, "Yes, Wong. I did want more. I always want more."
I wanted to see the Defenders team from the Netflix universe come through one of those portals. I wanted to see Logan lead the X-Men.
Okay, well that may have been asking a little too much. But
I don't care.
But I wanted to see the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pop up. I mean, like, we couldn't have used Quake, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we couldn't have used her in this battle. But,
Fantastic Four.
But so many great things in this film, and that's why it got a perfect rating. You got another 4-star?
No.
No?
3.5.
Oh, okay. It's number 1, but it's 3.5. Okay.
Well, there's no other 4-star movies on this list.
All right.
Just so you know. There's several 3.5-star movies.
All right, so there you have it, our top 10 best and worst comic book movies. So how did we do? How do you guys think it measured up? Do you have other films on your list that didn't make it onto ours? Let us know about it in the comments section. Like we said, we had to make some hard decisions for these lists.
I stand by these decisions. Fight me.
Okay. All right, so leave it in the comments, and I know you guys were missing Thor last week, so let's head back up to the garage and see what he's up to. All right, comic lovers, it's time for our Stump the Old Man segment. So good to have Thor back here.
Definitely my favorite part of the show.
Oh, because Thor's back here with us. So good to have you back, boy.
I'm so glad you're not biting my hand every time I offer you a treat. Good boy.
All right, so I have some comic book movie related questions for you today. All right, so number 1, to date, what is the only MCU film to not feature a Stan Lee cameo appearance?
Well, I know the answer to that one, and it kind of makes me sad because why weren't they ready? I mean, I know Stanley passed, but it just seems they could have filmed something in advance. Like, you know, let's do 10 different random shots that we can work into any movie. Let's be ready. But it was the last Spider-Man movie, Far From Home.
Okay, that is correct. The Avengers Endgame was the final cameo appearance by Stan Lee in the MCU, which was kind of fitting. So to date, after he passed, was the only one that he did not appear in. All right, so question number 2. We have our Thor-related question again. Joey boy.
Hey, I better get this one.
All right. The final casting choice for Thor in the MCU came down to Chris Hemsworth and what other actor?
You daggone dog. I don't know, Brad Pitt.
Okay, no, but that would have been interesting. The other choice was Liam Hemsworth.
Huh, brother.
Yep. So the brothers said in interviews that they held no ill will towards each other, and Chris even said that he was rooting for Liam the whole time.
Well, I have no ill will for you being back and me missing the Thor question, but I just want to remind you, there are no female dog superheroes.
It's okay, boy. You'll find someone someday. All right, on to our final question. We're 1 for 2 right now. Name the highest grossing DC film of all time.
Well, pretty sure it's going to come down to 2. Wonder Woman kicked butt. I mean, it was huge for DC. Justice League, I don't think did as good as Wonder Woman did. But I'm going to have to say it's your old buddy, Jason Momoa, in Aquaman.
Aquaman is correct. It's fairly far down though. Aquaman sits at number 23 with 1.1 billion at the worldwide box office. In front of it are 7 different Marvel films, 3 of them being in the top 10. Avengers Endgame, of course, sits at number 1. All right, so 2 for 3. The old man wins this round.
Of course.
Who's a good boy? All right, comic lovers, that about does it for this episode. But before we go, we want to let you know that the old man and I are going to be taking a little time off the next few weeks. We're taking 2 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's coming up. So sorry if our reunion is cut a little short with Thor here. Not to worry though, because we have our Mandalorian reaction video coming up later this week. And also, if we get any box heroes in the mail, we're expecting one any day now, we'll be sure to show you that video. So you'll get a little more EMoney and the old man in your life.
Or if we pick up any collections or get anything back from CGC, we'll show you that.
Right. But Thor, sorry to cut the reunion so short, but you won't see him for another 3 weeks, I guess. We'll see him. Won't we, boy? Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, we need Thor in our lives, don't we, boy? Yeah. 2 weeks was too long. Yeah. All right, so hope you guys have a happy and safe holiday season and ringing in the new year. 2020 has been a little rough on all of us, so here's hoping 2021 treats us a little better.
So, true believers, read more comics.
Yeah, read more comics, watch more superhero movies, get your trivia knowledge up, and we'll see you guys at back issues in the new year. Excelsior.